Breaking news, it's crunch time on Capitol Hill. And having nothing to do with all that's going on geopolitically, tonight, Republican senators are chiseling President Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill with the hope that it can be finalized before the July 4th recess. But even if the Senate squeaks it through by the weekend, it is reportedly a long shot that the House will sync up its version with the Senate's by Independence Day. To the man who served as the nation's chief financial officer just after the financial crisis of 2008, Jack Lew was the 76th Treasury Secretary, and he was also the Office of Management and Budget Director the last time the United States had a balanced budget, 98 to 2001. Thank you for joining us first on Fox Business. You also served as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But right off the bat, this July 4th so-called deadline is a manufactured deadline. They say that August is the deadline because that's when we hit the debt ceiling, we run out of money to actually operate. You have been in that position before. How serious is August as a deadline?
Well, it's good to be with you, Liz. I'm not in the day-to-day number flow as I was when I was Treasury Secretary, but I do think that August is a reasonable time frame to think that they need to do the debt limit. And then you end up taking another break, and you have to get another pretty long distance before Congress will be back to deal with it. So I think July 4th is a goal. It's their desire for political reasons, but it's really August that's the deadline because of the financial requirements.
This bill, the GOP would say, has tax cuts in it that will spur growth. It's got tariffs that will be coming in to add money to the government coffers and narrow the deficit. And it's got waste, fraud, and abuse to get rid of it, to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Is that enough? Because as we look at what the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, had scored it as, even the dynamic scoring, which takes into account some of these unknowns, it still leaves a very big hole in the deficit, does it not?
Yeah, I don't think that this bill will do very much good for the economy or for the direction of the life of working Americans. I think what the bill does is it takes a deficit and a debt that's already a problem. We know that the debt is already bigger than the amount we spend on national security is the amount we pay on interest on the debt. This is going to add $3 to $6 trillion to the debt. And the only reason the smaller number is even being talked about is there is this pretense that some of the tax cuts are temporary and they'll go away. Well, we know the sun doesn't set on tax cuts. These sunset provisions are not real. So to me, this is adding, closer to $6 trillion of debt. That means that we're on a path to having a debt that's 200% of GDP. That's a problem. And this is going to mean that higher interest rates, it's going to mean that we squeeze out other parts of the budget. And the things that are in the budget that are you described as fraud and abuse, let's be honest, it's cutting benefits from people in a way that's going to hurt them and hurt other people. When you take 15 to 16 million people off of the health rolls, it doesn't mean they all of a sudden get well. They go to the hospital and they are then treated as uncompensated patients. That means you and I are going to pay in our insurance premiums.
Well, then give me a measure. If nothing in this bill, and I understand why, I mean, you are on the Democratic side. If nothing in this bill you say is going to actually help growth or help close the deficit, give me a measure that would.
Yeah. So look, the thing that initially drove this bill is that the original tax cuts would expire, and people have made the argument that if those were to go away, that would slow the economy down. That's not an excuse for adding new tax cuts to the bill. And they didn't pay for any of the initial expansion, and they're not paying for the additions right now. So they've come up with about $1 trillion of savings, just under $1 trillion of savings, but it's a kind of reverse Robin Hood. The tax cuts go to businesses and to high-income taxpayers. The benefit cuts all come to people at the bottom and the middle. So you're going to see people who are in the top 1% doing very well, and people who are earning $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year losing, falling behind. So I think it's really upside down.
Well, listen, you have to agree, though, that the corporate tax rate was outrageously high. We were losing business. People were leaving, setting up and domiciling their businesses in lower tax countries because the corporate tax rate was at 35% or whatever it was. Now it's down to 21%. And you don't hear about companies leaving the United States anymore. So why not extend that?
So if there could have been a debate about extending that provision without digging the hole deeper, there could have been a discussion about how to pay for the things that are most important. But that's not the way the debate started. The debate started by making it bigger, pretending that the cost of just going forward with the old tax cuts isn't there, paying for a piece of the new spending, and hurting people who are the most vulnerable in order to pay for that. I think that's the wrong way to make policy. If you look at where, imagine you're a rural hospital. Imagine you're a rural hospital in an area where the next hospital is 200 miles away, and your finances are not great. You now are losing revenue because people are coming in without insurance, and those are either going to go out of business and leave people 300 miles away from a hospital?
Now you have some Republican senators who are very unhappy with that part of it, and they side with that view. But when you were the Office of Management Budget Director under President Clinton, a Democratic president, that is the last time we actually had a budget surplus, 1998 to 2001. How, if you were there with the Trump administration in fantasy world, how would you make that happen again?
Well, it's hard for me to put myself in exactly that role. But
Understood.
Let me tell you, if you asked me, as somebody who spent most of my professional life working on our fiscal policy, the thing that we know is that the most recent trustees report from Social Security says there's less than 10 years before Social Security runs out of reserves. That means that everybody is going to be facing a crisis in whether it's 8 years or 7 years or 9 years. Deal with that on a bipartisan basis. That's what we did in 1983 when I worked for Speaker O'Neill and Ronald Reagan was president. We came up with something that lasted for 50 years. It was hard. Neither side could have done it on its own. We had to do it together or it couldn't happen. Hard things mean hard decisions, and that means explaining why it's worthwhile to both sides. In a very divided partisan environment, you can't do those kinds of hard things. And just laying on more kind of things that sound good, it sounds great to say you're not going to tax overtime or tips. It sounds great to say you're not going to tax Social Security. We can't afford that. It just digs the hole deeper, and it actually hurts the people you're trying to help.
Well, yeah, it sounds really good, and I would love for that to actually happen for the lower tier of people. That's the thing. It's just a matter of, well, you can't do so many goodie giveaways without then cutting back somewhere else. I do want to ask you before we go about you having served as the U.S. ambassador to Israel during the Biden administration. We watched this weekend as U.S. B-2 bombers took out a lot of the nuclear capability that Iran had been building up. We're still waiting on the actual evidence of it, but certainly this is a positive, is it not? I mean, Israel has been under threat, and today they actually even hit the clock in the town square somewhere in Iran, and it's the so-called "till the death of Israel" clock. And they were able to go in there and get rid of that. I mean, psychologically, how important is this?
I've spent a lot of years working to degrade Iran's capabilities. And if Iran is farther away from a nuclear weapon, then the world is better off. What we don't know, because we don't have the damage assessment, is where is their enriched uranium? Do they still have the capacity to enrich to the point of it being ready for a bomb? And do they have the capability to take the final steps to make it into a weapon? I don't think we know the outcome yet. And ultimately, it requires a diplomatic resolution, or they'll rebuild back the capacity over time. So I don't think anyone argues that the world isn't better off if nuclear weapons are not in the possession of Iran. Where we are today is not quite as clear as a lot of people think it is.
We're keeping our eye on the Middle East.
I hope it is, yeah.
Indeed. Former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew, great to have you.